First, I'd like to say good morning to everyone. Welcome to the Education Committee. Will all members press their button for attendance? The clerk may close the roll. A quorum is present. First, we'd like to welcome all the teachers and individuals who are involved in education to our meeting this morning. Certainly, we are glad to see you and welcome your input into the process. The first item on our agenda, we will be having the report from Subcommittee on Pre-K through 12 by Delegate Bagby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. HB 15 requires the Board of Education to make regulations to require each new public school bus purchased for the transportation of students to be equipped with a seat belt consisting of a lap belt and shoulder strap or harness in every seat. The bill requires each school board to ensure that no later than July 1, 2038, each school bus that it uses for transportation of students is equipped with a seat belt in every seat. The subcommittee recommendation was to report on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
Thank you. It's been motioned and properly second that we pass House Bill 15, public school buses seat belt. Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none. Are there any questions from the public in favor or in opposition?
Madam Chair.
Delegate Avoli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although I agree with the concept of seat belts, no one can disagree with that. I just fundamentally believe that your local school boards should be given the authority and responsibility of doing this. These are elected people just like us, and I would not like to see an additional burden put on them to us to dictate to a local school board or local government what they should and should not do.
Thank you. May I have a motion to report? It's been motioned and properly second that we report House Bill 15. All members may vote. The clerk may close the roll. House Bill 15 reports 14-2. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 49 requires the Department of Education and relevant local school boards to develop and implement a pilot program for the transition of students who are educated in private school settings pursuant to individualized education programs to the appropriate public school setting in the relevant local school division for up to 4 years in 2 to 8 local school divisions in the Commonwealth. The recommendation of the subcommittee was to report and refer to appropriations on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
May I have a motion to report and refer to appropriations?
I made it, Madam Chair.
It's been motioned and properly second that House Bill 49 report and refer to appropriations. Members may vote. House Bill 49 report and refer to appropriation 16-0.
House Bill 134, Madam Chair, requires the Department of Education to establish guidelines for the individualized education program teams to utilize when developing IEPs for children with disabilities to ensure that IEP teams consider the needs for age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate instruction related to sexual health, self-restraint, self-protection, respect for personal privacy, and personal boundaries of others. The recommendation of the subcommittee was to report on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
Are there any questions from the members of the committee? Would anyone from the public desire to speak in favor of this bill? In opposition? The clerk may open the roll. It's been motioned and properly second. House Bill 134 reports 15-1.
Madam Chair, House Bill 145 requires the Department of Education to develop and make available to each school board no later than December 31st, 2020, model policies concerning the treatment of transgender students in public elementary and secondary schools that address common issues regarding transgender students in accordance with evidence-based best practices and include information, guidance, and procedures in establishing standards. The recommendation of the subcommittee was to report on a 6-2 vote, and I so move.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Is there anyone from the public who desires to speak in favor of this bill? In opposition? It's been motioned and properly second. Members may cast their vote. It has been motioned and properly second that we report House Bill 145, 12-3. Clerk may close the roll.
Madam Chair, HB 762 expands the eligibility for services under the Children's Services Act to students who transfer from an approved private school special education program to a public special education program established and funded jointly by a local governing body and school divisions located within the Planning District 16 for the purpose of providing special education and related services. The subcommittee recommendation was to report and refer to appropriations on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
It has been motioned and properly second that we report House Bill 762. The clerk may open the roll. House Bill 762 will be reported and referred to appropriations. Clerk may close the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 1491 has an amendment, and I will move the amendment.
Been motioned and properly second that we accept the amendment. All in favor, use the voting sign aye.
No.
Nay opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 1491 requires each public high school to provide to any enrolled student who is of voting age or otherwise eligible to register to vote access to Virginia voter registration information and applications and the opportunity to complete such application during the normal course of the school day. The recommendation of the subcommittee was to report as amended on a 6-2 vote, and I so move.
Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak in support of the bill?
Yes, Madam Chairman, good morning. Delegates Carol Nagel with the League of Women Voters. And we definitely support this. We do a lot of work in the high schools, but we know there are a lot that are not being covered. So I appreciate Delegate Guy's bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody to speak in opposition? Hearing none, will the clerk open the roll? The committee may vote. House Bill 1491 reported with amendment 15-0. The clerk may close the roll.
Madam Chair, House Bill 1578 will be I make a motion to incorporate that into House Bill 1557.
Is there a second? It's been motion and properly second that we incorporate House Bill 1578 into House Bill 1557. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed, motion carried. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 1557 eliminates the annual salary limits for appointed school board members and permits any appointed school board member to pay each of its members an annual salary that is consistent with the salary procedures and no more than the salary limits provided for local governments in Article 1.1. It was a recommendation of the subcommittee to report and refer to appropriation with the substitute, and I move the substitute.
Thank you. It's been motion and properly second that we adopt a substitute. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye.
Aye.
The bill is before the committee. Are there any questions from the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move I move that we report and refer to appropriation with the substitute.
The clerk may open the roll. The committee may vote. It's been, House Bill 1557 is reported and referred to with the substitute to appropriation with a vote of 14-1. The clerk may close the roll.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to carry HB 40 over to 2021. This is a bill that required the Board of Education to amend its regulations to require that each public school create and maintain a mental health break space within the public school building. Again, I'll make a motion to carry HB 40 over to 2021.
It's been motion and properly second that we carry House Bill 40 over to 2021. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed, motion carried.
Madam Chair, that completes my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving right along. I guess everybody don't have a lot to say this morning. Very good. Next, we will have a report from the post-secondary and higher education. Chairman, Vice Chair.
I'm not
Are
the
you?
vice chair. I think if Delegate McQuinn would like to give it, but I'm happy to. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure I follow the pecking order before I get in trouble. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. To report from the Post-Secondary and Higher Education Committee, House Bill 130 by Delegate Lindsay.
103.
103 by Delegate Lindsay. He's in the crowd. I want to make sure I get that right. Requires each institution of higher education that is required by law to include prominent notation on the academic transcript of each student who has been suspended for, has been permanently dismissed for, or withdraws from the institution while under investigation for an offense involving sexual violence under the institution's code, rules, or set of standards governing the student's conduct, to adopt a policy for the expungement of such notation for good cause shown after a period of 3 years. Madam Chairwoman, the subcommittee recommended reporting 8-0, and I so move.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Perhaps,
Delegate
a
Avoli.
comment, not a question. What is the significance of 3 years?
Madam Chair, the patron is with us today.
Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, 3 years was something that was promulgated by the committee that of stakeholders who were involved. We had stakeholder groups convened at different times around the Commonwealth from various schools of higher education.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak in support of the bill? In opposition to the bill? Hearing none, we may cast our vote. House Bill 103, reports 16-0. The clerk may close the roll. Delegate Rasul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 104 from Delegate Lindsay requires each public institution of higher education to adopt non-academic student codes of conduct. The bill mandates that students and student organizations that participate in the non-academic student codes of conduct process as a complaint or respondent shall have the responsibilities and rights afforded to them by the institution's code of conduct and related policies and procedures. Madam Chair, the subcommittee recommended reporting 8-0, and I so move.
Madam Chair, I believe there's an amendment as it relates to this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Rasul, the line amendment, this was not considered by the subcommittee, but this would be after line 38, insert D. The provisions of this section shall not apply to any public institution of higher education established pursuant to Chapter 25, Section 23.1-2500 et sec, and that would be the Virginia Military Institute.
May I have a motion to adopt the amendment? It's been motioned and properly second that we adopted the amendment. All in favor, use to vote and sign aye. Nay opposed. The bill is before us.
Madam Chair, we move House Bill 104 as amended.
Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone from the audience to speak in support of the bill? In opposition? Hearing none, we will open the roll and you may vote. House Bill 104, reports with amendment 15-0. The clerk may close the roll. Delegate Rasul.
Madam Chair, the committee recommended incorporating House Bill 811 into House Bill 300. So I would so move that recommendation.
It's been motioned and properly second that we incorporate House Bill 8111 into House Bill 300. May I have a motion, please? It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye.
Aye.
Nay opposed. Motion carried. Delegate Rasul.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. House Bill 300 from Delegate Simon prohibits any private institution of higher education, baccalaureate public institution of higher education, athletic association, athletic conference, or other organizations with authority over intercollegiate athletics from providing a prospective athlete with compensation that results in the from the use of the student's name, image, or likeness, prohibiting compensation that prohibiting or preventing a student athlete from earning from another individual or entity compensation that results from the student's name, image, likeness, except in certain circumstances, prohibiting or preventing a student athlete from obtaining professional representation by an athlete agent or legal representation by an attorney license or practice law in the Commonwealth, or declaring ineligible for or revoking a scholarship provided to a student athlete who earns compensation that results from the use of the student's name, image, or likeness. Madam Chairwoman, this is the bill with regards to compensation for student athletes. There was some discussion, but we know that there are a lot of questions here. Specifically with House Bill 300, the subcommittee recommended to report and refer this bill to appropriations on an 8-0 vote, and there's a substitute that we recommended reporting, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the substitute to House Bill 300. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye.
Aye.
Nay opposed, motion carried. Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak in support? In opposition? Hearing none, the clerk will open the roll. Members may vote. House Bill 300 is reports and referred with the substitute to appropriation with a vote of 16-0. Clerk may close the roll. Delegate Rasool.
Madam Chair, House Bill 375 requires each post-secondary school that requires any student to submit to arbitration to resolve disputes with the school pursuant to the enrollment agreement to permit the student to report the dispute to any other individual or entity before the arbitration proceeding is initiated or completed. Report each student dispute to the State Council of Higher Education, SHEV, and to report to the council certain information about each arbitration proceeding that results from a student dispute. Madam Chairwoman, the bill prohibits any post-secondary school that is required to be certified by council from conditioning the enrollment of a student receiving state funds based in Title 23.1 of the Code of Virginia upon entering into an agreement that requires the student to arbitrate any dispute between the student or the school. The subcommittee did recommend reporting with amendments 5-3, and I so move.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we accept the amendments. All in favor use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed. Motion carried. Are there any questions from members of the committee?
Madam Chair.
Delegate Bulliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was hoping that Delegate Willett could maybe put the issue in layman's terms. Reading through it, it was a relatively dense piece of legislation. I just want to kind of understand the fact pattern of the problem that you're trying to solve.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the question from the delegate. In a nutshell, this is related to the fact that a number of for-profit colleges require binding arbitration as part of their agreements. So for those schools that do not receive state funding, there are still requirements through this bill that will enable the student to actually notify other people that there is a dispute. There are also reporting requirements put on those schools so that the information is shared about the disputes. It's basically adding more transparency to that forced arbitration process.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Bulliver.
And if I could, so just so I understand, is there peace in the Valley with respect to our institutions of higher education? Were you able to work out those differences, or is there discomfort, or are people in agreement?
No, I think we're going to appreciate, Madam Chair, appreciate the delegate's question. We worked with SHEV on this, and I believe we have peace in the Valley now. We've also worked with the Student Borrower Protection Center, representing the student interest of this. So I think we've come together. In the subcommittee, the only real question was some clarity as to who was doing what when. We reordered those provisions and also added one additional reporting requirement, and I think we're good with that now.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Delegate Wampler.
Madam Chair, my question has been answered. I found the substitute in my packet. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Are there any other questions? It's been moved and properly seconded that we report House Bill 375. The clerk will open the roll. Members may vote. House Bill 375 reports with an amendment 14 to 1. We will wait for Delegate Bourne. The clerk will close the roll. Thank you, Delegate Willett.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, House Bill 611 requires all members of governing boards of public institutions of higher education to participate and educational programs designed to address the role, duties, and responsibilities of the governing board at least once within the first 2 years of membership and at least once within every 2 years thereafter. The substitute, I believe, gave more latitude as to when and how the institutions of higher education would be able to provide that. The subcommittee did recommend reporting the substitute on an 8-0 vote, and I so move.
Is there a second? It's been motion and properly second that we accept the substitute to House Bill 611. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay. Motion's carried. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in support of the bill? In opposition? Hearing none, the clerk will open the roll. The committee may vote. House Bill 611 reports with the substitute, 16-0. Clerk may close the roll. The bill reports. Delegate Rasul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 743 requires any provider of private student loans to provide student loan advising information to a student prior to issuing the loan. The subcommittee did recommend reporting a substitute, which had a delayed effective date to July 1st, 2021, and I would so move.
There have been motion and properly second that we accept the substitute. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed. Substitute accepted.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Bulliver.
Thank you. And at the request of the Virginia bankers, we have one clarifying line amendment, if council can report that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Bulva, this would be on line 15 of the substitute adopted by the subcommittee that's in your packet after information insert applicable to private student loans.
And Madam Chair.
Delegate Bulliver.
If I could, and so information is very broad. This is just to make sure that the information that summarizes that is relevant to private student loans and not everything that might be on that SHEV website. So I think that's implied, but happy to go ahead and type out that language.
Move the amendment.
It's been motion and properly second that we accept the amendment. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed. Amendment accepted. Are there any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair?
Delegate Avoli.
Question for Delegate Bulova.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes, sorry.
Thank
Who
you.
is responsible for the administration of this and oversight and regulation?
So, Madam Chair, that's a very good question. The summary and the contact, that's actually something that would be done by by SHEV. Most people don't realize that Virginia already has a student loan ombudsman. And so this just makes sure that when somebody is considering a private student loan, that they understand that there is a resource that already exists in Virginia in case they ever run into trouble with that. On the SHEV website, there's also a lot of great information, not just about the mechanics of private loans, but also information about, what is your likely earning power if you graduate in certain fields or with certain majors. And so this is just a way to make sure that as you're considering a private loan, that you know the resources that actually already exist in Virginia to help make an informed decision.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the members on the committee? Does anyone from the public to speak in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Matt Bruning with the Virginia Bankers Association. Just briefly wanted to extend our appreciation to Delegate Bulova throughout the process and getting feedback from those representing the private lending institutions to make sure that this is the most efficient and effective way to provide this disclosure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in support of the bill? In opposition? Hearing none, the clerk will open the roll. The committee may vote. House Bill 743 reports with the substitute. The clerk may close the roll. The bill reports. Delegate Rasul.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 913 requires institutions of higher education to include in their sexual violence policy a requirement that any enrolled student who reports an individual employed by the institution that an act of sexual violence occurred on campus and the institution determines that as a result of any investigation relating to such alleged act of sexual violence also committed a separate, unrelated, nonviolent act that violates this institution's code, rules, or set of standards, that student be granted immunity from disciplinary action. The substitute that is before us clarified a couple of points, but most importantly that the immunity is only with regards to minor nonviolent infractions. The subcommittee recommended reporting the substitute 6-2, and I so move.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we accept the substitute. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed, motion carried. The bill is before you. Does anyone on the committee have any questions?
Madam Chairman, or Madam Chair.
Delegate Bolivar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if my understanding is correct, so this is very similar to the Good Samaritan laws that we already have on the books, that if somebody is going into an overdose, you happen to be drinking or engaging in some other illicit activity that you don't want them thinking about getting in trouble for that, you want them to make sure that somebody's life gets saved. And so this is kind of the corollary with respect to sexual assault. And so I want to make sure I understand that correctly. But I guess my question comes down to the term minor. And so I don't know that that is a specifically defined term. And so would that be something that each institution of higher education would define, or what was envisioned, what was the conversation in subcommittee?
Delegate Helmer.
Madam Chair, if it pleases you, I'd address the delegate's question by answering that I appreciated the previous conversation and input on that. Two components to that answer. One is, yes, it does exactly what you suggest in terms of providing Good Samaritan type immunity for reporting. It, one, leaves that up to the institution itself to define, but two, provides some guidance in the substitute with a such as clause, which I had the pleasure of working with Delegate Collins. The such as clause, which is on line 22, it says such as a violation that would constitute a misdemeanor or a nonviolent felony. My understanding, I would answer the delegate, is that the such as clause is less binding than an including clause, but it does provide some guidance within the code to how institutions of higher education should think about what they include in their code.
Madam Chair?
Delegate Bolivar.
And I think that the confusion might be, I don't think that we have the substitute in front of us.
Madam Chair, I would offer a amendment in the nature of a substitute.
May I have a motion? Been properly seconded that we accept the substitute. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed, motion carried. The bill is back before us.
Madam Chair, speaking to the bill, this bill. Madam Chair, speaking to the bill as was presented by Delegate Rasul and in the subsequent discussion with Delegate Bolivar, this amendment and substitute provides clarification for an institute of higher education a requirement that institutions of higher education include in their code immunity for those who report acts of sexual violence in which they themselves are not the perpetrator for nonviolent offenses, and clarifies that with a such as clause at line 22 that those violations intended to be covered by immunity are such as those that would constitute a misdemeanor or nonviolent felony.
Delegate Bagby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it's the appropriate time, I'll move the pending question.
At this time, if there's a motion, the clerk will open the roll. The members may vote. House Bill 913, reports with the substitute, 15-1. The bill reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you, Delegate Helmer. Delegate Rasul?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 992 declares the A.L. Philpott Manufacturing Extension Partnership a political subdivision of the Commonwealth and requires its staff be treated as state employees for the purpose of participating in the VRS, health insurance, and all other employee benefits offered by the Commonwealth to its classified employees. Currently, Madam Chair, they already are officially, but it is not clear in the code as they are employees of a local community college. The subcommittee recommended reporting and referring to appropriations, and I so move with the substitute.
May I have a motion to accept the substitute? It's been motioned and properly second that we accept the substitute to House Bill 992. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Nay opposed, motion carried. Are there any questions from the committee? Are there any questions from the public in support? In opposition? Hearing none, open the roll. The committee may vote. House Bill 992 reports and referred to appropriation with a vote of 16-0. The clerk may close the roll. The bill is reported and referred. Delegate Rasul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would recommend that we vote en bloc by voice, continuing over under Rule 22 to the 2021 session, the following bills. House Bill 194 with regards to a plan and framework for the State Board of Community Colleges. House Bill 195, which discusses course credit for dual enrollment. House Bill 1115 for public institutions of higher education with threat assessment teams. House Bill 1309, which talks about entrance requirements and computer coding. And House Bill 1584, students of higher State Council of Higher Education for Virginia with regards to the Business Advisory Committee. I would ask that they be rolled over into 2021.
It's been motioned and properly second that we pass the following pieces of legislation in a block vote over to 2021. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye. Aye. Nay opposed. Motion carried. I believe we have one more item on the agenda, and that's House Bill 1336.
He's got amendments to it.
Okay. All right. There are some amendments to House Bill 1336, and he's coming? Okay, this committee will stand at ease for a few minutes, waiting for Delegate Keem.
Does he have to speak to it?
These amendments. Okay. We don't have the amendments yet.
Is that him?
Yeah. The only reason I voted for it is because I voted for it in subcommittee. I think it's going to get modified or changed. I agree.
If you would have just left it nonviolent, that would have been enough. I try to tell him to take my hair out, just leave it nonviolent.
Well, I wish Chris Collins was here because he said he'd worked with Chris on it. I'm like, well, I'd like to know that conversation. It should have been done in subcommittee, and I think that's what irritates me. Some of these bills should be taken care of in subcommittee, not full. Because half the people on our subcommittee aren't even here.
The committee may come to order. Delegate King, we have House Bill 1336 that is before us. I believe you have some amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, I apologize for the tardiness. I'm chairing a subcommittee upstairs. I have House Bill 1336, which was considered at the subcommittee, and we have an amendment which, if Ryan, if you could circulate. I know that full committee members have not heard this bill before, so after we adopt the amendment, I'd be happy to speak very briefly to the bill and the amendment.
May I have a motion to adopt the amendments? Been motion and properly second that we adopt the amendments. All in favor, use the vote and sign aye.
Aye.
Nay opposed, motion carried. Delegate King, can you tell us about the
Sure.
amendment?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This bill would essentially add a language to ensure that the FLEs are reviewed at a minimum once every 7 years. There was some question and some confusion among both stakeholders and some of us in the government as to whether FLEs are part of the SOL curriculum, therefore automatically reviewed every 7 years, or are they different enough that they need a special authorizing language? So the first part of this amendment, well, the first part of the bill remains, which is to require that FLEs be reviewed at least once every 7 years. The part that gave some of our members a little bit of concern or confusion was the question about what type of stakeholders the Department of Education should convene as a stakeholder group and consult with, and rather than listing a whole number of different groups that may be part of that, we thought it would be better to just leave it to the discretion of the Department of Education to convene a stakeholder group. So instead of having it in code language, the amendment would basically move that section to an enactment clause, but keeping it a little bit more generic. So if you read the revised enactment clause, it would say that the first review shall happen by 2021, and also that the board will convene a stakeholder group. I believe this addresses the concerns of our subcommittee chair and other members who may have raised some questions during the subcommittee. And the Department of Education was very, very helpful in working with me on this. Yeah.
Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Madam Chair, it was myself and Delegate Bulova who had brought those concerns, and this perfectly addresses them in the underlying bill. We support, and so I would move that we report this thing to the floor.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Are there any members from the public to speak in support or opposition?
All right.
Hearing none, there was a motion. Members will record their vote on the electronic voting system. House Bill 1336, report with amendments. The clerk may close the roll. The bill reports 17-0. Thank you. This concludes our meeting this morning. The meeting is adjourned.